sometimes you really do only need 3 chords, and this is a lovely case in point from the 1998 album Car Wheels on a Gravel Road. Lucinda Williams' classic is simple not just in the number of chords it's got, but also the structure. It's just an 8-bar sequence that goes round and round several times, and because it's such a simple song, I thought this would be a good opportunity to look at ways we can use the capo in different places with different chord families, which means we're going to delve into a little light theory as well. Nothing too much, but you might know that in any major key there are 3 ways to create a major chord just using the notes of the key. If you start on the first note of the scale, we can call that chord 1, that would be a major chord. Starting on the 4th note of the scale, that's also going to give you a major chord. And then again, if you start on the 5th note of the scale, you're going to get a major chord. So we often talk about chords 1, 4 and 5. And this song uses chords 1, 4 and 5. I've actually got a very straightforward video in my Soundbite series on basic chords, which goes into a bit more detail and should lay that out very clearly for you. And if you're just getting to grips with using a capo, I've got a couple of videos that you might find helpful. Firstly, in my Guitar Basics series, there's one that's just called How to Use a Capo. Talks all about the ins and outs of using a capo, the types of capo, and what it means if you place a capo at a particular fret in terms of the chord shape you're playing and what key you're going to sound as though you're in, all that kind of stuff. And then I've got a thing called a capo calculator, which helps to work all that out. It should show you, and it's not particularly intuitive, I have to admit, should show you what happens if you put a capo at any particular fret and play any chord shape, what it's actually going to sound like. So as I say, it's early stages, not particularly easy to use, but you might find it useful. Have a go and let me know what you think. Okay, so let's look at the song itself. Now it's in the guitar unfriendly key of E flat. You're perfectly free obviously to play this in any key you like, but I'm going to stick to the original key, which means putting a capo on the 1st fret initially, I can play as if I'm in the key of D. It's D, upper fret, D sharp, which is the same as E flat. So that's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to start by just sketching out the 8 bars. We've got a chord of D for 2 bars, then we move to G, and then back to D. All the way to Jackson, I don't think I'll miss you much. Now, if we just think about the relationship between those chords briefly, we're in the key of D, so I'm going to say that that's chord 1. 1 and 1, then we go to G, which is 4, back to 1, all the way to Jackson, I don't think I'll miss you much. Now bear that in mind, that's going to come in handy when we discuss different keys in a moment. And the final 4 bars are a bar of A, all the way, and to G, to Jackson, and then 2 bars of D. I don't think I'll miss you much. Let's make those into numbers too. So A is D, E, F, G, that's 5. All the way to chord 4, to Jackson, I don't, chord 1. 2 bars on chord 1. And actually what happens at the end of the first of those 2 bars, we get a quick chord 4. So in this case, D, G, D. It's on the 4th beat of that bar 7, if you like. So here's the whole thing in the key of D, thinking about the numbers. All the way, chord 1, and again, to Jackson, chord 4, which is G. I don't think, back to chord 1, I'll miss you much. Now we have chord 5, which is A. All the way, 4 is G. I don't, 1, quick 4 and back to 1. In fact, if we're going to stick in this key, which I'm not, but we could do, the G, we could just play this. It's a G here. I've got a finger, my third finger on the 4th fret of the 3rd string, 2nd finger on the 3rd fret of the 2nd string, and 1st finger on the 3rd fret of the top string. And I'm playing the top 4 strings, so I've got the 4th string open there, so it's a G with a D in the bass, and that's probably enough. All the way to Jackson, I don't think I'll miss you much. Okay, the other tweak I'd like to make is that when we get to A, which is chord 5, D, E, F, G, A, it's very common to play chord 5 with a 7th, so A7. All the way to Jackson. I'm going to play a proper G here. I don't think, and then again my little shorthand version. So all together in the D version we have all the way to Jackson. I don't think I'll miss you much. A7. All the way to Jackson. I don't think I'll miss you much. So there it is. We've sketched out the chords, and more importantly, we've got these numbers, so we can take those relationships and put them in another key when we move the capo up. Now I've got my capo on the 3rd fret, which means that C, C sharp, D, E flat. If I play a C shape with a capo on the 3rd fret, it sounds like E flat, exactly the same as my D shape with a capo on the 1st fret. And when I first worked this song out, I thought actually this is probably the way it's played. I no longer think that because, well, I experimented in a few different places and found what I think is actually the right place. But this works very well. We just need to think about what those numbers are now. So if we're in the key of C, 1 is C, C, D, E, F is 4, and G is 5. So we're going to play C, F, and G. And of course, chord 5, I could make G into G7. I might do that. I might not. But we can play chord 1 for 2 bars, all the way to Jackson, chord 4, which is F. I don't think, now nobody likes playing a bar chord here, so here's a simple shape we can play. In fact, I think it's almost better in this key. I'm going to start with my C shape, and I'm going to keep my 1st and 3rd fingers where they are. That finger, the 2nd finger on the 2nd fret of the 4th string, I'm going to bring it up to the 2nd fret of the 3rd string. And I'm going to tuck my little finger in behind the 3rd finger. My little finger's now on the 3rd fret of the 4th string. And if I stick to the middle 4 strings of the guitar, I've got a very good F. So C for 2 bars, F for a bar, and back to C. All the way to Jackson, I don't think, back to C, I'll miss you much. Now I've got my G chord. All the way to F to Jackson, C, I don't think, little F, and back to C. Okay, so I've got my C and F chords just on the bass note on the 5th string, so it's kind of an F with a C in the bass. I can come down here for my G, but actually I might just stay here with my bass note on the 5th string. If I don't use the 6th string for G, I've got a G with a B in the bass. And in fact, just to make it a little brighter, I might put a finger, I'm going to use my little finger on the 3rd fret of the 2nd string, miss out the top string. So I'm really just playing the middle 4 strings of the guitar. And because I'm playing the middle 4 strings, I can play a really simple Travis picking pattern. So let's look at that now. I'm going to have my thumb on the 5th string and the 4th string. It's going to wander between the two. And I've got my 1st finger on the 3rd string, the G string, and my 2nd finger on the 2nd string, the B string. And it works like this. I'm going to pick the 5th string with the thumb, then the 2nd string with the 2nd finger. Now I'm going to come up to the 4th string with the thumb and pick the 3rd string with the 1st finger. So it's my outside pair, 5th string and 2nd string, thumb and 2nd finger, and then it's going to be 4th string and 3rd string, thumb and 1st finger. And I can just keep them like that and play all 3 of these chords just with the middle 4 strings. All the way to Jackson. Jackson, I don't think I'll miss you much. Here's my G over B all the way to Jackson. I don't think I'll miss you much. The original's a little bit quicker than that, but not much. All the way to about there. I don't think I'll miss you much. All the way to Jackson. I don't think I'll miss you much. You know, and you could keep it there, play with the capo on the 3rd fret as if you're in C, using C, that little 4-string F shape and my G over B, and that's not bad at all. But I'm going to go on and push the cap up a little bit further. Let's see what happens. Now, if you want to stick to the original key, and for this exercise I'm going to, this just helps me to demonstrate all this, I don't think there's a particularly sensible place to put the capo after the 3rd fret until you get to the 6th fret. Because playing with a capo at the 6th fret, you can play as if you were in A, and that is, you might know an A-type bar chord, that's an E-flat chord there, so there it is. An A with a capo on the 6th fret is actually an E-flat. And now my 1, 4 and 5, well, A is the first letter of the alphabet, so that's simple. A, B, C, D, and E, or E7. So let's have a little look. There it is, A for 2 bars, because that's chord 1. Then I've got chord 4, which is my D, and back to A. Chord 5 is E, or maybe E7. Chord 4 is D, and then back to A. Little D to A. There it is, chord 4 to 1. The only issue here is that D is a little bright, isn't it? The capo's all the way up here, and by the time I get up to this, what's that? That's the 8th and 9th frets I've got this shape on. It's pretty bright as a fairly brittle sound. I'd prefer to extend the range of that D chord down a little bit. There's a few ways I could do that, but maybe try this. If you were to use your finger barred across the 2nd, 3rd and 4th strings at the 2nd fret, along with the open 5th string, that's going to give you an A. Okay, you're sacrificing the top string because you're not using the open top string there, but that's good. And for this Travis picking style, we only really need 4 strings at a time. Now for my D chord, I'm going to do this. I'm going to bring a finger, my 2nd finger, onto the 3rd fret of the 2nd string, and my 3rd finger onto the 4th fret of the 4th string. Still playing the open 5th string. So now we'd have this, 2 bars of A, a bar of D, a bar of A. I'd have this. All the way to Jackson, I don't think I'll miss you much. All the way to Jackson, I don't think I'll miss you much. Which is, again, very close to the original. It sounds a lot like the original recording. And you could do that too. You could play an A, that's quite nice. We've got some nice open string stuff going on there. That's quite a nice shape to play for that D with an A in the bass like that. That all works very nicely. But let's put the capo up one more time and see what happens. So we've reached the dizzying heights of the 8th fret here, which is probably about as far as I'd like to go with a guitar like this before it starts to sound like a novelty instrument or a toy, you know. But what does that mean? What's the implication for the actual chord we're going to play to be in the key of E flat? Well, you may know that on the 11th fret of the bottom string in standard tuning, there's an E flat. And for me, with a capo on the 8th fret, that's actually the 3rd fret, visually speaking, of the guitar. So that looks like a G. So if I play in G, I'm actually playing in E flat. It sounds like E flat, and I'm playing as if I'm in G. And so what are these chords? I've got a G is chord 1, G, A, B, C is 4, and D, or D7, is 5. So let's just sketch these out quickly. I've got 1 and 1, chord 4, which is going to be C. I don't think I'll miss you, G. Now chord 5, D. And you can hear that's pretty bright. I mean, you might want that kind of sound, but we might work on that D in a second. Anyway, chord 5 for a bar. Then we get to C, which is chord 4, and back to chord 1, which is G, with a quick 4 being C and back to G. All the way to Jackson, I don't think I'll miss you much. D. All the way to Jackson, I don't think I'll miss you much. Alright, let's sort those chords out. The D chord, I want to extend it down a little bit, maybe get rid of the top string. I've got an F sharp there, 2nd fret of the top string. Let's put that on the bottom string instead. I can use my thumb there, 2nd fret of the bottom string, gives me D over F sharp, and that just creates a warmer, mellower sound. I'm extending into the lower range of the guitar here. I could refinger it like that, maybe 1, 2 and 3, or 2, 3 and 4 with a capo. I might do it like that, I'm not sure. Let's see, yeah, 2, 3 and 4 probably. That's going to be my D. And actually I might play D7. So playing it like that, that's the 2nd finger on the 2nd fret of the bottom string, open 5th, open 4th. I've got my 3rd finger on the 2nd fret of the 3rd string, 1st finger on the 1st fret of the 2nd string, and I'm not playing the top string. So that's my D7 over F sharp. And I reckon it's not Lucinda Williams playing here, it's either Gurf Morlix or Johnny Lee Schell. I think it's Johnny Lee Schell who's playing here. It's a lovely picked guitar part, and I reckon this is how he's playing it up here in G. In a moment I'll put the original tab, or what I've transcribed from the intro, note for note, and we'll maybe have a quick playthrough of that. But for now, let's just have our... When we looked at Travis picking in the key of C, the thumb was on the 5th string to 4th string. Now I'm going to keep my thumb on the 6th string to 4th string. So that's the basic idea. And when I go to the C chord, I'm going to keep my 3rd finger on the 6th string, and I'm going to play 1st and 2nd fingers if I'm playing a C chord, but actually it's C over G. So very much like D over A when we were playing in A, or F over C when we were playing in C, and so on. I'm going to keep chord 4 with the bass of chord 1. You'll see. All the way to Jackson, I don't think I'll miss you much. D7 over F sharp. All the way to Jackson, I don't think I'll miss you much. Now, you don't have to be too insistent about the picking here. I'm not picking every single one. In fact, I'm just kind of treading water with the thumb some of the time. I'm just filling in with the fingers from time to time. That's more like it, rather than being, you know, that starts to sound like an instrumental. A bit more sustainable this way. And some little accents creating syncopations. Okay, that's all there is to it. We'll have a little playthrough in a moment, but first let's look at the tabbed out version of the intro as played on the original. So here it is slowly. It starts with a little pickup, and we've got this idea going on pretty much all the way. 1, 2, 3, 4. you can see that quite a lot of the time we're doing nothing but moving the thumb between the 6th and 4th strings. And up to speed. Okay, let's have a playthrough. 1, 2, 3. Once I get to Lafayette, I won't mind one little bit. Once I get to Baton Rouge, I won't cry a tear for you. Once I get to Baton Rouge, I won't cry a tear for you. And that's it.